everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for Ask the Expert North Texas. I'm Kristen Diaz.
David Rankin, if you notice the prices at the pump, they are shooting up and they're slowly going down. Right now, we're in the going down phase of gas prices. And of course, as gas prices rise and fall, we bring in the expert on that. Dan Armbruster from AAA is in the KRLD Zoom room. Dan, thank you so much for the time.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
This is one thing, and I've asked you this before, and I still don't know if I ever get the answer that I want. Is why is it they'll shoot up 30, 40 cents overnight, and it takes forever for them to, the rocket ship up and feather down?
Yeah, usually what goes up comes down faster, right? Gas prices, usually not the case, but we are seeing them come down a little bit this week. I think a lot of that has to do with the market forces and demand. But when we look at gas prices in Texas, they are some of the lowest in the country. So that's good news. If you're driving in Texas, of course, the heat has not been helping. In fact, there were reports as of recently as a few days ago that refineries were still having some issues because of the heat, and that was causing refineries to shut down. And prices, of course, going up a little bit because of supply. Now, overnight, for the first time in probably 4 weeks, at least, we have seen the averages come down, the price averages a little bit.
Yeah, it's been definitely a topic of conversation as so many people have gotten back on the roads again this summer and are, flying again. But just interested in as far as the change moving out of summer into winter, how is that projected to look like this year?
So usually what we see is gas prices go up in the summer. We have more people traveling. It's busier. And summer blend gasoline is a little bit more expensive to produce. Now, winter blend gasoline is a little bit cheaper. We also switch over to that in the fall. And then, of course, we also have where fewer people are traveling. You still have some road travel, people going to national parks, and things like that. But it's not nearly what we see in the summer.
And we talk about this. The end of summer seems to be right around Labor Day. Is that when we start seeing the prices start to drop?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Sometimes late August, sometimes a little bit into mid-September, but usually somewhere in that area around Labor Day. It can vary from year to year. This year, we'll have to wait and see. It wouldn't surprise me if we see some fluctuation here in the next few weeks, and also maybe even price averages go back up a little bit. May not, but it wouldn't surprise me if they do, given that crude oil prices are still going up following the announcement that Saudi Arabia would continue their production cut outputs, which onto the global market, which of course hampers supply a little bit, and then it keeps crude oil prices up.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're saying, we're seeing some of the lowest prices in the country. So you would, I guess it would be natural to assume that moving into the fall, we could get maybe closer to that $3 mark instead of $3.50.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, it is possible. And certainly it wouldn't be surprising to see that happen, especially as we get later into October, November, and the holiday time. And usually in those times, so like when we get closer to the holidays, we'll see another little price spike right before Thanksgiving because more people are traveling. Same thing, Christmas, Hanukkah, end of year holidays.
We talk about the summer blend and winter blend of gasolines. What is the difference? What changes?
Yeah, so that's called the Reid vapor pressure, and that is essentially there's two. There's two forms. So you have Reid vapor pressure, or what's called RVP. And if you have higher RVP, it evaporates more quickly at a given temperature. And so your colder weather, because the higher RVP, gas doesn't need that higher temperature to evaporate. So that's winter blend gasoline. So in the summer, you want that to evaporate at a lower temperature. And so that way, because it can evaporate too quickly in the summer. So and it's all about emissions. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, a lot of V's and P's there. EPA actually regulates that, and that is required to basically reduce smog and emissions from our vehicles.
Are there any tips you can give our listeners as we're dealing with the extreme heat? on, is there any way to save gas prices at the pump, like as far as like filling up on a certain day or a certain time of the day?
There are some myths out there about that, and if you might find it cheaper a little bit, sometimes on a Monday versus a Friday, right? Because people are taking off for the weekend, there's higher demand. But generally speaking, the best thing to do is to use, like, retail stores will have rewards programs. You can download apps like the free AAA mobile app, things like that, to help you find the cheapest gas near you. In California, I was reading our California club's advice to their drivers for how to save gas, and it says, don't use the AC. Well, we can't do that here in Texas. So
You
that
were going to
one
say in
we can't.
California, just don't drive because it's like $8 a gallon. Joking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go electric.
509 today. Yeah. 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 Hey, we have a Tesla in my family, and we love it. So I tell you what, electric cars, of course, they continue to grow in popularity each year. And certainly a trend we're likely going to continue to see, especially as more regulations kind of go that way in certain states.
Yeah, once they figure out how to be able to fill that tank in less than half an hour, then we got something, because you fill your tank in like 90 seconds to 2 minutes. I want to go another direction here as well, since we've got you here on the line. We've been seeing temperatures, and Kristen brought it up. We've been seeing extreme heat here in North Texas, especially 107, 108 degrees. How does that directly impact the cars, and what can we do to prevent damage to our cars from this extreme heat?
So heat and vibration are a battery's worst enemy. So your car battery or your electric vehicle battery, even the heat can affect that as well. So that's one thing that it affects. Also, your tires. We're in what's called blowout season. So what happens is, if you're driving on underinflated tires and that hot pavement, which it can get over 130, 140 degrees if the sun is bearing down on it, it creates more friction with your tire when it's underinflated, and then you can have a failure of that tire. Also, your belts and your hoses, look for cracking on them. You can, the one thing that I was learning the other day, though, is some of the newer vehicles, the type of rubber that they use on the hoses and the belts, it can be difficult to tell that it's going to fail until it does. So they don't crack as much as the older belts and hoses and show that wear and tear. But still, go ahead, take a look under the hood. And again, with your battery, also look for corrosion. If you do see corrosion, or if your battery's over 3 years old, you definitely want to have a trusted mechanic take a look at it, because the extreme heat we see, and also sometimes the extreme cold, both of those can really have an effect, a negative effect on our vehicles.
That's Darren Armbruster from AAA. Dan, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.